We are told a story from childhood, a story whispered by parents, teachers, and even the movies we grew up on. The story says, if you work hard, stay patient, and play fair, you will be rewarded. But let me ask you something. If that were really true, why do we live in a world where the hardest workers are often the poorest? Why is the single mother with 3 jobs barely surviving, while someone who inherited their fortune enjoys yachts, private jets, and palaces? Why do entire empires collapse while men who cheated the system rise to the top and write the rules for everyone else? The truth is this: wealth has never been distributed according to fairness. It flows through hidden channels, guarded by laws most people will never learn. Not the laws written in books, but dark laws. The kind whispered in boardrooms, practiced in palaces, and followed by anyone ruthless enough to win. These are the laws of power, the laws of money, the laws that decide who becomes a king and who dies forgotten. And today I'm going to show you the ones that matter most. Understand them, and the world begins to make sense. Reject them, and you remain blind, forever playing a game you don't even realize exists. So let us begin. The first dark law of wealth. The world rewards power, not fairness. Most people believe in fairness like a religion. They cling to the idea that if they follow the rules, life will reward them. But fairness is not a law. It is an illusion. History is proof of this. Look at the Roman Empire. The senators who ruled the Republic weren't chosen because they were the fairest or the most deserving. They rose through connections, through influence, through power. Julius Caesar didn't become one of the most powerful men in history by waiting his turn. He manipulated alliances, raised armies, and forced the world to bend to him. Fairness had nothing to do with it. Or look at the business world today. Do you think Jeff Bezos became the richest man alive because the universe decided it was fair? He understood leverage, strategy, and the brutal truth. The market rewards dominance, not kindness. Amazon crushed competitors, undercut prices, and reshaped entire industries. That wasn't fairness, it was power. This is the first dark law. The world doesn't reward who works the hardest. It rewards who holds the power. Think about it in your own life. Have you ever seen someone less talented, less intelligent, maybe even less honest, get promoted above you? They didn't win because they were better. They won because they understood power. Power is the ability to influence outcomes, to control resources, to command attention. Fairness doesn't create opportunity. Power does. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people reject this idea. They'd rather stay comfortable believing that hard work is enough. But hard work without power is like a soldier without a weapon. You can fight all you want, but you'll be crushed by those who came prepared. The illusion of fairness. Why do we believe in fairness so deeply? Because it makes the world feel predictable. If life is fair, then your sacrifices will eventually pay off. If life is fair, then suffering means something. If life is fair, then you can endure poverty today, knowing that tomorrow will reward you. But this is a comforting lie. Life is not designed to be fair. Nature itself proves it. The lion does not apologize to the gazelle. The storm does not care if it destroys a farmer's crop. And the world of money? It is a jungle. Those who cling to fairness are eaten alive. Why power matters more? Power shapes reality. When a wealthy individual buys land, hires lawyers, and influences politicians, what is fair to the average person is irrelevant. When a company president lays off 10,000 workers but secures a $50 million bonus, was it fair? But power made it possible. Power bends the rules. Power creates exceptions. And in many cases, power writes the rules in the first place. This is why wealthy families stay wealthy. It's not because of fairness. It's because they hold networks, influence, and access that the average person doesn't even know exists. So what do you do with this knowledge? You don't complain about unfairness. You don't sit back and hope the universe balances things out. You study power. You build power. You wield power. That doesn't mean becoming ruthless or cruel. It means understanding the levers that actually change your position in life. Ask yourself, who controls the opportunities around me? Who holds the keys to the resources I want? How can I become indispensable to people with influence? Because here's the secret. Power doesn't always come from money. It can come from relationships, from skills, from information. Sometimes the quiet man in the room, the one who knows secrets, the one who can connect the right people, has more power than the billionaire who depends on him. Humans are wired to follow strength. We are drawn to those who project confidence, control, and authority. This is why in negotiations, the one who speaks last often wins. It's why in leadership, the one who appears certain gains followers, even if they're not truly right. Power isn't always about what you hold in your hands. It's about what others believe you hold. Remember this, perception of power can be just as valuable as power itself. Consider this story. In the 1500s, the Florentine thinker Niccolò Machiavelli wrote The Prince. In it, he argued that it was better for a ruler to be feared than loved, if he couldn't be both. Why? Because people might love you when it's easy, but they will obey you when you have power. His words were shocking, even disturbing, but they revealed a truth that leaders secretly understood. Centuries later, his book still sells. Why? Because human nature hasn't changed. The rulers of today, politicians, billionaires, corporate titans, they all live by this first dark law. Power creates opportunity. Fairness doesn't. Think about the tech industry. Mark Zuckerberg didn't wait for fairness when building Facebook. He seized an idea, grew it ruthlessly, and then bought out competitors before they became threats. That's not fairness. It's power. Or look at governments. Nations don't rise and fall because of fairness. They rise because they accumulate power, economic, military, and cultural. And on a personal level, the employee who dares to build influence, to network, to speak with authority, is the one who rises fastest, not the one quietly working hardest. So now you face a decision. You can cling to the illusion of fairness. Keep your head down, work harder, and pray that someday life will reward you. Or you can open your eyes, see the world as it really is, and start building power. Because in the end, the world doesn't reward effort. It rewards those who control outcomes. That is the first dark law of wealth. Law 2. Perception is more valuable than reality. There is a bitter truth that most people refuse to swallow. The world does not reward reality. It rewards perception. You can be the smartest, the most talented, the most hard-working person in the room, but if no one sees it, it may as well not exist. Meanwhile, someone with half your talent, half your intelligence, and half your skill can rise above you if they control how they are perceived. This is the second dark law of wealth. Perception often matters more than reality. Human beings are not logical creatures. We are emotional, biased, and easily influenced. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we believe it is. This is why branding is worth billions. Why celebrities make fortunes simply by attaching their names to products. Why some people command loyalty before they've even proven their worth. It's not about what is. It's about what appears to be. The wealthy understand this at a deep level. They don't just build money, they build an image, an aura, a perception of power, competence, or exclusivity. Because when you shape perception, reality bends to follow. Centuries ago, Niccolò Machiavelli wrote that a ruler must appear virtuous, even if he is not. Why? Because people judge by appearances. A prince could be ruthless in secret, but if he looked merciful, generous, and just, the people would follow him. The lesson was clear. It is not necessary to actually be virtuous. It is necessary to seem virtuous. Modern leaders, CEOs, and politicians still follow this principle. They wear masks, they project what the people want to see, while behind closed doors, they act according to strategy, not morality. Think about corporations. Do you believe every company that advertises itself as green or eco-friendly is truly saving the planet? Of course not. Many are guilty of greenwashing, creating the appearance of sustainability while behind the scenes, polluting just as much as before. And yet, customers reward them. Stock prices rise. Investors feel good about backing them. Because perception drives money, even when reality tells a different story. Or look at the celebrity world. How many actors, singers, and influencers do you know who have more fame than talent? Do you really think the world's most famous figures are also the most skilled? Number. They are simply the most seen. The spotlight creates the perception of greatness, and that perception creates wealth. This is why a mediocre athlete with charisma can earn more endorsements than a truly gifted one who stays quiet. It's why a charismatic speaker can raise billions in investments, while a genius engineer struggles to convince anyone of his ideas. The one who controls perception controls opportunity. Many people cling to the idea that if I'm good enough, people will eventually notice. But here's the truth. The world isn't watching you. The world is distracted, overloaded, drowning in noise. If you don't shape your image, if you don't actively craft how others see you, you will remain invisible, no matter how good you are. This is why billionaires spend fortunes on PR firms, why politicians stage photos, why businesses design every detail of their brand, from the logo to the font, to send psychological signals. Because perception is a weapon, and if you refuse to wield it, someone else will wield it against you. Psychologists have proven that first impressions are formed in 7 seconds. 7 seconds. That's all it takes for someone to decide whether you are trustworthy, competent, or worth listening to. Think about that. Before you even open your mouth fully, before you've had the chance to prove yourself, people have already judged you. That judgment, fair or not, will shape how they treat you. It will influence whether they offer you opportunities, respect, or money. So, what matters more in that moment? Your true character, or the perception of your character? Steve Jobs wasn't the best engineer at Apple. He wasn't the one designing circuits or coding software, but he was a master of perception. He understood the power of storytelling, image, and presentation. His black turtleneck became a uniform, a visual brand. His product launches weren't just announcements, they were performances. Jobs crafted an aura of genius, innovation, and inevitability. People believed in his vision. Investors gave money. Customers lined up overnight. Was he perfect? Number. But perception carried him further than raw ability ever could. So, how can you use this law? Ask yourself, how do others currently perceive me? Is that perception helping or hurting me? What image do I need to project to attract the opportunities I want? Because here's the reality. The world rarely looks beneath the surface. If you look powerful, people will treat you as powerful. If you look successful, people will assume you know what you're doing. And once they believe it, reality begins to follow. Of course, this law can be abused. Scammers thrive on perception. They project wealth, confidence, and legitimacy while stealing from those who trust them. And for a while, they succeed, until reality finally catches up. But here's the key. Even they understand the rule. They know that people are not searching for truth. They're searching for a convincing image of truth. And while deception has a cost, strategic perception, when built on real foundation, can multiply your results without limit. Most people fail because they reject this law. They tell themselves, "I don't care what people think of me." But that is a luxury only the powerful can afford. If you have no power, no wealth, no influence, you cannot ignore perception. You must shape it deliberately, or you will be shaped by others. The wealthy play this game constantly. They hire stylists to design their look, consultants to craft their speeches, strategists to shape their public image. Why? Because they know a single shift in perception can mean billions in market value, millions in votes, or decades of loyalty. Reality matters. Of course it does. Skills, knowledge, and substance give you staying power. But if you don't master perception, reality may never even get a chance. So the lesson is simple. Don't just work on who you are. Work on how the world sees who you are. Because in the end, it's not the best who win. It's the best perceived. That is the second dark law of wealth. Law 3. Time is a weapon. Time. The one resource you cannot create more of. The one currency that every billionaire, every king, every ruler, and every empire has had to confront. And yet, most people treat time as if it were infinite. They waste it, they trade it cheaply, they let it slip through their fingers, while the wealthy weaponize it. This is the third dark law of wealth. Time is not just money. Time is a weapon. The average person thinks of time in terms of wages. How much will I earn per hour? The wealthy think in terms of leverage. How can I buy back my hours and multiply them? This is the brutal truth. The poor sell their time. The wealthy buy the time of others. A worker clocks in for 8 hours. A CEO uses the labor of 10,000 workers, multiplying his reach 10,000 times. Who is richer, the one who protects every minute, or the one who rents out their lifetime for a paycheck? Think about it. When you are paid hourly, your income has a ceiling. You can only work so many hours in a day. Your body will collapse before you escape the trap. This is why the wealthy despise the idea of active income. They seek leverage, assets, businesses, investments that work while they sleep. Because here is the unshakable truth. If you do not learn to divorce your time from your money, you will never escape servitude. The ruling classes have always known that time is the most powerful form of control. Think about the school system. From childhood, you are trained to give up your time. Sit here at 8 a.m. Wait for the bell. Ask for permission to move. By the time you're grown, you've been conditioned to sell your time automatically, to believe it's normal. The wealthy designed this system not to educate you, but to program you, to make you comfortable with the idea that your hours belong to someone else. John D. Rockefeller understood time differently. While his competitors worked longer hours, Rockefeller worked strategic hours. He delegated, he leveraged, he positioned himself so that others spent their time creating his empire. He wasn't obsessed with being the hardest worker in the room. He was obsessed with being the most strategic. Because wealth isn't built by filling your calendar. It's built by clearing it. Most people are addicted to the appearance of being busy. They brag about working 60, 70, even 80 hours a week. But here's the dark truth. Busyness is often just disguised weakness. The wealthy don't glorify being busy. They glorify being free. They design their lives so that their time is spent only on high-leverage actions, building networks, directing capital, making decisions that move billions. They let others handle the tasks that drain hours but produce pennies. This is not laziness, it is strategy. The wealthy do 3 things with time. They buy it. They pay others to do what wastes their own hours, so they can focus on bigger moves. They multiply it. They use leverage, employees, technology, media, capital. Each tool expands their presence beyond their own 24 hours. They protect it. They treat time as sacred. They guard it with barriers, assistance, and systems so that every hour they spend counts. Meanwhile, the average person trades away hours for scraps. There is another way time enslaves people: procrastination. The illusion that I'll do it tomorrow. But tomorrow never comes. This is the deadliest form of time theft, stealing from yourself. While you wait for the perfect moment, someone else is moving. While you delay, competitors are building. While you hesitate, empires are being created. Time does not care about your excuses. It moves forward, relentless, merciless, unstoppable. And once it's gone, it can never be bought back. Think about how time itself has been weaponized against you. Your alarm clock controls when you wake. Your work schedule dictates when you eat, when you rest, when you see your family. Your entire life is structured around the clock, not your desires. Meanwhile, the wealthy design their schedules around their priorities. They don't live by alarms. They live by freedom. Warren Buffett once said, "The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient." Patience is a weapon. While the average person chases quick money, Buffett weaponized time itself, holding positions for decades, letting compound interest multiply his wealth endlessly. By doing nothing, by waiting, he turned time into a soldier that fought for him. That is the true mastery of wealth. Using time not just as a schedule, but as an ally. So what does this mean for you? It means you must stop thinking like a laborer and start thinking like a strategist. Stop trading time for wages. Start leveraging time through skills, systems, and people. Guard your time from distractions, toxic people, and pointless busyness. Because in the end, the wealthy do not just have more time, they weaponize it. And until you learn to do the same, you will always live by someone else's clock. This is the third dark law of wealth. Time is a weapon. Law 4. Relationships are currency. Money is powerful. Time is powerful. But there is a resource even more valuable than both: people. Because here's the truth. You are never paid solely for what you know, but for who knows you. The wealthy understand this law better than anyone. They know that relationships are not just social niceties, they are a form of currency. This is the fourth dark law of wealth. Relationships are currency. Society loves the story of the self-made man, the lone genius who pulled himself up from nothing. But this is a myth. Every empire, every dynasty, every fortune was built on the back of alliances. Behind every titan of industry is a network. Behind every ruler is a circle of loyal allies. Behind every successful entrepreneur is a web of investors, mentors, and power brokers. You can be brilliant. You can be talented. You can be disciplined. But without relationships, your power will remain small. Here's a truth most people never learn. Opportunities are not floating in the air. They are controlled by people. A job is given by a hiring manager. A loan is granted by a banker. A contract is signed by a partner. An introduction is made by someone who already has access. It doesn't matter how good you are if you never get past the gatekeepers. And gatekeepers are influenced by relationships. This is why the wealthy obsess over networks. They know that who you know often matters more than what you do. The Rothschild banking dynasty didn't become powerful just because of financial brilliance. They became powerful because of relationships. Each brother was strategically placed in a major European capital: Paris, London, Vienna, Naples, Frankfurt. They built alliances with kings, governments, and aristocrats. When wars needed funding, when empires needed loans, the Rothschilds weren't just bankers. They were trusted partners. Their relationships created influence that no pile of gold alone could ever buy. Relationships are currency because humans are wired for reciprocity. If I help you, you feel obligated to help me. If I connect you to power, You feel indebted. If I open a door for you, you are far more likely to open one for me. This invisible web of obligation is how influence spreads. The wealthy don't just give for charity, they give strategically, creating networks of debt and loyalty that can be called upon later. This is why favors are often more powerful than money. Money is finite. Favors can multiply indefinitely. The opposite is also true. Isolation is weakness. The poor often live in isolation, cut off from networks of power. They rely only on their own skills, their own efforts, their own limited perspective. This is why even brilliant individuals can die poor. Without allies, their greatness is invisible. Meanwhile, average people with powerful connections rise far higher. Because society does not reward the isolated, it rewards the connected. Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate, did not build his empire alone. He partnered with Henry Clay Frick, who was ruthless in labor negotiations and operations. Their alliance, though eventually bitter, multiplied their fortunes. Carnegie brought vision and networks with financiers. Frick brought operational strength and control. Together they crushed competition and reshaped industry. Neither man could have achieved the same empire alone. Here is the core. Relationships. Extend your power beyond yourself. When you have allies, you multiply your reach. When you have mentors, you borrow their wisdom. When you have networks, you tap into opportunities invisible to the isolated. One strong relationship can be worth more than 10 years of effort. Think about that carefully. One introduction can change the trajectory of your life. One ally in the right place can open doors that would otherwise remain shut forever. That is why the wealthy invest in relationships as deliberately as they invest in stocks, real estate, or businesses. The wealthy follow unwritten rules when it comes to building connections. They give before they take. Strategic generosity builds loyalty. They plant seeds before they expect fruit. They curate their circle. They do not waste time with the unambitious, the toxic, or the stagnant. They surround themselves with those who elevate them. They maintain the network. A relationship is like a fire. If you don't tend it, it goes cold. The wealthy keep lines of communication alive, even when they don't need something immediately. They leverage introductions. Every person they meet is a doorway to 10 others. They understand exponential networking. Most people fail at this law for 2 reasons. EGO. They believe they don't need anyone. Passivity. They wait for relationships to happen instead of building them intentionally. The wealthy know better. They treat networking as a craft, a discipline, a deliberate strategy. Because they understand, if money is oxygen, relationships are the lungs that make it possible to breathe. Of course, this law can be used in ruthless ways. Some use relationships not to build, but to control. They create webs of dependency, where allies cannot escape their influence. This is how political machines operate. This is how corporate empires keep competitors weak. It may be dark, but it works, because in the end, people rarely rise alone. They rise on the shoulders of others, or they remain crushed beneath them. So, what is the lesson for you? If you want to build wealth, influence, or power, you must stop thinking of relationships as optional. They are essential. Cultivate allies, trade favors, build loyalty, protect your network as fiercely as you protect your money. Because the truth is simple. You are not just measured by the cash in your account. You are measured by the power in your circle. This is the 4th dark law of wealth. Relationships are currency. Law 5. Power hides in silence. In a world where everyone is shouting, where social media rewards noise, where opinions spill out like cheap wine, true power belongs to those who master silence, because silence is not emptiness, silence is not weakness, silence is strategy. This is the 5th dark law of wealth. Power hides in silence. The average person believes that talking proves intelligence. They believe that filling space with words makes them seem confident, knowledgeable, or important. But in reality, the opposite is true. The more you speak, the more you reveal. The more you reveal, the more others can use against you. The wealthy know this. The powerful know this. That's why they let others talk while they listen. Because silence isn't passive, it's a weapon. Human beings are uncomfortable with silence. In a conversation, when silence lingers, most people feel anxious. They rush to fill the gap, blurting out secrets, weaknesses, or concessions they didn't intend to share. The one who controls the silence controls the outcome. This is why master negotiators say less than necessary. They know silence forces the other side to reveal their position. It's not just about words, it's about dominance. Silence makes people lean forward, crave your response, chase your approval. J.P. Morgan, the American financier who dominated Wall Street, was infamous for his silence. In boardrooms, he often sat still, listening while others debated, argued, or begged for his backing. And when he finally spoke, it was brief, sharp, and decisive. Because by withholding words, he increased their value. Every sentence became law. Every word carried weight. This is how silence transforms from emptiness into authority. Another reason silence is so powerful is because it creates mystery. When people don't know what you think, they become obsessed with finding out. They speculate, they overestimate, they fill in the gaps with their own fears and assumptions. Mystery is a magnet. It makes people watch you, study you, and grant you more power than you might actually hold. This is why the most powerful figures in history often spoke less than their rivals, because the less you reveal, the more people project. And perception, remember law too, is often more valuable than truth. The mafia built entire empires on silence. They even have a code for it, OMERTA. Silence was not just survival, it was power. It allowed them to operate in the shadows, build networks of influence, and evade law enforcement for decades. Those who spoke too much were silenced permanently. Because every empire understands, the more people know, the weaker you are. Look at high-level business deals. Do you think billion-dollar acquisitions are announced the moment they're conceived? Number. They are negotiated in secret. They are whispered about in back rooms. They are shielded in silence until the moment of execution. Because once the world knows your move, your opponents have time to react. The wealthy don't telegraph their strategies. They reveal them only when it's too late for anyone to stop them. Watch how people react when you say nothing. The insecure will crumble, overshare, or try to win your approval. The confident will hold their ground. This reveals character faster than any conversation. Silence is the truth serum of power. It exposes weakness without you having to lift a finger. History is littered with the ruins of those who confused loudness with power. Kings who boasted of invincibility before being overthrown. CEOs who overpromised in interviews before their companies collapsed. Leaders who shouted threats only to be humbled by reality. Noise brings attention, but silence brings control. The ones who last are not those who speak the most, but those who speak the least and act the most. Of course, silence can also be used cruelly. The silent treatment can manipulate relationships. A refusal to speak can create fear in subordinates. Withholding words can freeze negotiations until the other side breaks. Used strategically, silence can dominate. But used without care, it can also destroy trust. The wealthy understand this balance. They do not stay silent forever. They speak at the precise moment when words will have the most impact. Warren Buffett is another example. For most of the year, he says little, rarely grants interviews, rarely makes bold public predictions. But once a year, at the Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting, he speaks. And when he speaks, the world listens. Investors, journalists, and governments hang on every word. Why? Because silence made those words precious. Scarcity creates value, and Buffett's silence makes his voice priceless. So, how can you use this law? Speak less than necessary. Say only what is required, never more. Let your silence do the work. Pause before responding. A pause shows composure. It makes others anxious while you appear controlled. Let others reveal themselves. Ask questions, then stay quiet. People will show you their weaknesses if you give them the space. Control timing. Speak when it matters most, when your words will carry maximum weight. The world is addicted to noise, but power belongs to the silent. The one who controls their words controls their image. The one who withholds information controls the battlefield. The one who speaks rarely but decisively commands obedience. So remember this: noise is cheap. Silence is expensive. This is the fifth dark law of wealth. Power hides in silence. Law 6. Control information. Control reality. Power is not just about money. It is not just about armies or land or even influence. The truest form of power, the form that has shaped nations, destroyed empires, and crowned rulers, is information. Because the one who controls information controls reality. This is the sixth dark law of wealth. Control information, control reality. Humans are story-driven creatures. We don't act on facts. We act on the information we believe to be true. That's why rumors can spark revolutions, why headlines can crash markets, why a single leaked memo can destroy a CEO overnight. Reality itself bends when information bends. And the wealthy know this. They don't just accumulate assets, they accumulate narratives. Napoleon Bonaparte was a master of this law. He didn't just fight wars with cannons and cavalry, he fought wars with newspapers. When his army lost battles, he controlled what was reported. When he won, he exaggerated the victory. He even commissioned paintings to depict himself as larger than life, towering over reality. By controlling the flow of information, Napoleon created a myth of invincibility. And for years, that myth was stronger than any army. Today, the battlefield is the media. Do you think billionaires buy newspapers and TV stations because they love journalism? Number. They buy them because controlling information means controlling perception. And as we've already seen, perception often matters more than truth. Control the media, and you can create panic or calm. Control the narrative, and you can make a villain look like a hero, or a hero look like a villain. This is not theory. It happens every single day. Consider the stock market. Markets don't move on reality. They move on information. Rumors of a merger can add billions in value overnight, even if the merger never happens. A whisper of scandal can wipe out decades of growth, even if it turns out to be false. Traders don't wait for the truth. They react to the information available to them, and those who control the information earn fortunes from the chaos. Another layer of this law is secrecy. Information withheld is often more powerful than information shared. When people know you have access to knowledge they don't, they respect you, fear you, or follow you. This is why intelligence agencies are so feared, why corporate insiders are so envied, why the wealthy guard their strategies like state secrets. Because in the world of power, information is not just knowledge, it is ammunition. During the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union fought less with weapons and more with information. Espionage, propaganda, and disinformation campaigns shaped global opinion. Neither side could afford to let the other control the story, because whoever did would dominate the battlefield without firing a shot. Wars weren't just fought in jungles or deserts, they were fought in newspapers, in radio broadcasts, in television images. Control the story, and you control the world. Today, information is the most valuable commodity on Earth. Google, Facebook, and Amazon aren't just tech companies. They are information empires. They know what you search, what you buy, what you desire, what you fear. And because of that knowledge, they shape reality itself, guiding your decisions, steering your beliefs, bending your behavior. The wealthiest corporations in history are not oil companies or steel magnates. They are information monopolies. The digital age has made this law more powerful than ever before. The wealthy apply this law ruthlessly. They gather information others don't have. Insider insights, market intelligence, private research, these give them an edge that the masses can never match. They control what others see. Through branding, PR, and media manipulation, they shape perception, hiding weaknesses and exaggerating strengths. They weaponize secrecy. They withhold knowledge until the precise moment it creates maximum advantage. They spread disinformation. Sometimes flooding the field with false narratives confuses competitors and keeps opponents weak. Most people are consumers of information, not controllers of it. They scroll endlessly, absorbing headlines, memes, and gossip, believing what they are told without questioning the source. They are controlled by those who feed them the narrative. They live inside realities that someone else created. The wealthy don't play this game. They ask, who benefits from me believing this? And more importantly, how can I control the story myself? This law, like all others, has a shadow. When information is twisted, manipulated, or falsified, entire societies can be led astray. False narratives have justified wars, genocides, and economic collapses. But make no mistake, the effectiveness of this law does not depend on morality. It works whether used for creation or destruction. And that is why the wealthy treat information as their most precious weapon. Steve Jobs wasn't just a tech visionary, he was a master of information control. Colleagues often said he had a reality distortion field. He could present an idea so convincingly, so forcefully, that people began to believe it was inevitable, even if it wasn't possible at the time. By controlling the information flow, by projecting certainty, he bent reality until his vision became truth. And Apple became one of the most valuable companies in history. Practical application of law 6. So how do you use this law? Guard what you know. Don't reveal everything. Keep some cards hidden. It makes you harder to predict. Control what others believe. Craft your narrative deliberately. Don't let gossip, assumption, or accident define you. Seek the hidden information. Never rely only on what is given to the public. Look deeper. Find the knowledge that others overlook. Remember that truth is secondary. In power games, what matters is not truth. It is belief. Focus on shaping belief, and reality will follow. The world runs not on facts, but on stories. Not on reality, but on perception. Not on what is, but on what people believe to be true. And the one who controls that belief controls the future. This is the 6th dark law of wealth. Control information. Control reality. Law 7. Scarcity creates value. Power is never given. Value is never free. Everything you want, whether it's respect, wealth, influence, or love, comes with a price, and that price is scarcity. The 7th dark law of wealth is simple but profound. Scarcity creates value. If something is abundant, it is cheap. If something is scarce, it becomes precious. This is not just a principle of economics, it is a principle of human nature. Think about it. Why do limited edition sneakers sell for thousands of dollars? Why do diamonds shine brighter in human desire than coal? Why does a rare experience, like seeing a total eclipse, become unforgettable? Because humans are wired to assign value to scarcity. We fear missing out. We crave what is rare. Scarcity triggers a deep instinct rooted in survival. When something is limited, it must be important. This is why scarcity is one of the most powerful tools in the arsenal of the wealthy. Thousands of years ago, salt was not the commodity it is today. It was a currency. Kings, empires, and armies fought over control of salt mines. Why? Because salt was essential for preserving food and survival. Its scarcity made it a source of immense power. Roman soldiers were partially paid in salt, a word origin still alive today in the word salary. Scarcity wasn't just economics. It was survival. And whoever controlled scarcity controlled life itself. Luxury brands exist purely because they control scarcity. A designer handbag isn't expensive because it costs more to make. It's expensive because it is rare. Limited editions, exclusive releases, and waiting lists are deliberate strategies to make their products more desirable. Scarcity creates status. Scarcity creates demand. Scarcity creates wealth. This is why brands don't mass-produce luxury items. They deliberately restrict supply to elevate value. One of the most powerful forms of scarcity is time. We all have the same 24 hours each day, but how we use them determines value. Those who control their time control their lives. The wealthy guard their time as fiercely as they guard money. They understand that scarcity of time creates leverage. A meeting with someone who controls time or access to it is a meeting with power. Time is the ultimate scarce resource, and those who master its control master the world. Scarcity is not limited to possessions. It applies to people, influence, and attention. When someone is always available, they lose value. When someone is rare in their presence, they command respect. The same principle applies in business and politics. Access is power. Being unavailable isn't arrogance, it's strategy. Scarcity of access builds desire. Scarcity of presence builds respect. Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in history, is famously selective with his time. He receives thousands of meeting requests a year. Most are declined, not because he doesn't care, but because he understands that his time is scarce. By protecting his time, Buffett creates value, not only for himself, but for every opportunity he accepts. Scarcity makes his attention rare and therefore valuable. Law 6 taught us, control information, control reality. Law 7 builds on this. Make information scarce, and you make it powerful. Exclusive knowledge, limited data, and privileged insights are prized because they are unavailable to most. The wealthy don't just seek information. They make it scarce. They turn insight into exclusivity, turning knowledge into currency. This is why private networks, closed investment clubs, and secret strategies exist. Scarcity creates exclusivity, and exclusivity creates power. Economists call scarcity the foundation of value. No matter the market, commodities, stocks, real estate, scarcity drives pricing and demand. But in human affairs, scarcity works on a deeper level. It shapes emotion. Scarcity creates urgency. Scarcity creates desire. Scarcity creates action. This is why wealthy individuals understand that controlling scarcity is not optional. It is essential to maintaining power. The wealthy manipulate scarcity in deliberate ways. They control supply. Limiting what is available increases perceived value. They make access exclusive. By creating barriers, membership, invitation, or high cost, they enhance desirability. They time their offerings. Scarcity is amplified by timing. Limited time offers, rare events, and exclusive releases create urgency. They protect rarity. They ensure that scarcity is preserved, not diluted. Most people chase abundance. They want more. More money, more resources, more opportunities. But the truth is, abundance rarely creates lasting value. Scarcity, not abundance, creates power. Scarcity, not excess, creates desire. Scarcity, not availability, creates respect. The masses fail because they give away what they have too freely. They forget that controlled scarcity turns resources into leverage. Like all laws of power, scarcity can be abused. Artificial scarcity can create unnecessary suffering. Monopolies and hoarding can stifle progress. Scarcity can be weaponized to manipulate entire populations. But the reality remains. Scarcity is the invisible engine of value. Those who understand it and wield it control not just wealth, but reality itself. Elon Musk understands the psychology of scarcity better than most. Whether it's Tesla's limited production runs or the exclusive access to SpaceX missions, scarcity is built into his strategy. It creates demand, it creates hype, it creates perception. By controlling scarcity, Musk turns innovation into spectacle and spectacle into value. Here's how you can apply this law. Guard your time. Make your attention rare. Guard it as a precious resource. Create exclusivity. Whether in business, art, or relationships, design scarcity into your offering. Control access. Don't make yourself or your resources too available. Let access itself become a privilege. Master timing. Scarcity is magnified when paired with urgency. Create moments that compel action. Scarcity is not a disadvantage. It is the foundation of power and value. Abundance creates comfort. Scarcity creates desire. Scarcity creates leverage. The seventh dark law of wealth is simple. Scarcity creates value. And once you understand this, you will never view the world the same way again.
Law 8. Control the frame. Everything in life is a story. Every interaction, every negotiation, every battle is fought inside a frame. The eighth dark law of wealth is this: who controls the frame controls the game. Frames are invisible. They are the context through which we interpret reality. When you control the frame, you control perception. When you control perception, you control power. A frame is the perspective through which people interpret an event or interaction. It determines whether something is seen as an opportunity or a threat, as a loss or a gain, as trivial or monumental. When someone sets the frame, they decide the rules of the conversation. They define what matters and what doesn't. They control how people think and respond. This is why controlling the frame is one of the most powerful weapons in influence and negotiation. In a courtroom, lawyers fight to control the frame of the case. They don't just present evidence. They define the story. If they can make the judge and jury see the case through their frame, they control the outcome. Frames decide guilt or innocence, not just facts. Control the frame, and you control the truth. Frames aren't just for law or politics. They exist in everyday life. Every conversation you have is framed. Every negotiation, every relationship. The person who controls the frame controls the meaning of the interaction. For example, a manager frames a request as an opportunity rather than a demand to increase compliance. A negotiator frames a price as investment rather than cost to increase willingness to pay. A leader frames a crisis as a challenge rather than a disaster to inspire action. Framing shapes reality itself. Napoleon was a master of frames. On the battlefield, he didn't just fight with armies, he fought with perception. Before the Battle of Austerlitz, Napoleon framed the situation in his soldiers' minds. They were not merely fighting, they were part of a grand destiny. This frame transformed fear into courage, hesitation into aggression, and doubt into action. The frame became the battle itself. Politics is the art of framing. Every political movement depends on its ability to define the frame of the debate. Leaders who control the frame control public perception, and public perception decides elections. Think of propaganda, slogans, and messaging campaigns. These are all framing tools. The frame determines whether people see a policy as progress or sacrifice, freedom or restriction. Psychologists have proven that framing shapes decision-making.
This is called the framing effect, the phenomenon where people react differently depending on how information is presented. For example, a doctor telling a patient there is a 90% success rate for a treatment creates a far more positive reaction than saying there is a 10% failure rate, even though both statements are identical in fact. This proves control over frames equals control over choices. Steve Jobs understood frames better than almost anyone in business. Apple didn't sell products, it sold a frame of thinking. The iPhone wasn't marketed as a phone with features. It was framed as a revolution in personal technology. The frame of innovation transformed a product into a cultural icon. Jobs didn't just control the product, he controlled the frame through which the product was seen. The wealthy control frames deliberately. They define the context before the conversation begins, control the setting, the timing, and the terms before others speak. They control the narrative. They don't just present facts, they define how those facts are interpreted. They change the frame when necessary. When a frame is lost, they reframe the situation to regain control. They embed frames into language. Words carry frames. They choose words that anchor their desired perspective. In negotiation, frame control is the difference between winning and losing. The person who sets the frame defines the rules of engagement. They decide whether a negotiation is about price, value, principle, or relationship. For example, a car dealer who frames a price negotiation as getting a lifetime warranty rather than reducing cost shifts the conversation entirely. The buyer is no longer bargaining price, they are buying value. Relationships are framed by unspoken narratives. Who controls those narratives controls the dynamic. In personal relationships, frame control shapes respect, attraction, and influence. If you frame yourself as a person of value, others treat you as such. If you let others frame you, you give away your power. Most people lose frame control because they react instead of act. They let others define reality for them. They accept the frames others impose instead of creating their own. When you react, you play in someone else's game. When you act, you define the frame and set the terms. This is the core difference between leaders and followers, winners and losers. Frames are powerful. They shape reality itself. But this power can be dangerous. Frames can be used to manipulate, deceive, and control people. Propaganda, misinformation, and psychological manipulation all depend on controlling frames. This is why frame control is a dark law. It can build or destroy. Understanding frame control is not just a skill, it is a responsibility. Practical steps to master frame control. Set the frame first. Before entering any interaction, decide what you want the frame to be. Anchor the frame in language. Use words that reinforce your desired perspective. Resist others' frames. Don't accept framing imposed on you. Question and reframe. Reframe when necessary. If your frame is challenged, change the narrative instead of surrendering it. Observe frames around you. Understanding frames gives you the power to counter or control them. Frames are the invisible architecture of reality. Control the frame and you control the meaning of everything. The eighth dark law of wealth is clear. Who controls the frame controls the game. When you master frames, you don't just influence reality, you define it. And in doing so, you step into the true power of control. Law 9. Master the art of presence. In life, power doesn't come just from what you know, what you have, or even what you say. Power comes from how you exist. The ninth dark law of wealth is this. Presence is the ultimate power. Presence is invisible, yet it is felt deeply. Presence is the silent language of influence. It is the atmosphere you bring into a room. It is the energy that shapes perception before a single word is spoken. When you master presence, you become unstoppable.
Presence is not just confidence. It is more than appearance or posture. It is the art of occupying reality with intentionality. When you have presence, people stop and notice. They listen, they remember, they follow. Presence is about commanding attention without demanding it. It is about being so grounded, so alive in the moment that others can't ignore you. The greatest leaders, warriors, and visionaries in history understood the power of presence. They knew that controlling the room, controlling the energy, was as important as controlling the conversation. Presence transforms interactions. It can turn doubt into trust, fear into admiration, resistance into willingness. When presence is mastered, influence becomes effortless. Winston Churchill was a master of presence. During Britain's darkest hour, his words were powerful, but it was his presence that carried them. He didn't just speak to the British people. He embodied their resistance. His presence was an unspoken message. We will not surrender. In moments of crisis, presence is what inspires. It is the unshakable signal that transforms leaders into legends. Presence is rooted in biology. Neuroscientists have found that human brains are wired to respond to presence. When someone exudes presence, their body language, tone of voice, and energy release subconscious signals of dominance and confidence. These signals trigger a deep psychological reaction: trust, respect, and attention. Presence is not learned, it is cultivated. It is forged through mastery of self. In negotiation, presence is a silent weapon. It sets the tone before words are exchanged. The negotiator with presence doesn't need to argue. They command respect. Their energy says, "I am here. I matter. You should listen." This changes the dynamic. Presence turns negotiation into a dance where you lead, not follow. Presence is magnetic. It shapes attraction, trust, and influence in human relationships. Think about a person who walks into a room and instantly draws attention, not because of wealth or status, but because of their energy. This is presence in action. It is the quiet force that makes people want to be near you, trust you, and follow your lead. Most people lack presence because they are distracted. They live in the past or the future. They react instead of embodying the moment. Presence requires full awareness, total immersion in the now. It requires discipline to control internal states and to consciously command your energy. Without presence, you become invisible in the crowd. With presence, you become unforgettable. Presence is powerful, but it can be used for both creation and destruction. Presence without integrity becomes manipulation. It can be used to dominate, deceive, or control others without regard for truth or morality. That is why mastery of presence must be paired with moral clarity. True presence comes from alignment between who you are and how you project yourself. The wealthy understand presence as a form of unspoken influence. They cultivate presence through self-mastery, mastering emotions, body language, and voice; mindfulness, being fully aware in every interaction; purpose, projecting a clear sense of why they are there; energy management, controlling their emotional and physical states. When presence becomes habit, it becomes a magnetic force that opens doors without force. Practical steps to build presence. Ground yourself. Before entering any situation, take a breath and center yourself. Presence begins from within. Control your body language. Stand tall, keep eye contact, and move with intention. Master your voice. Speak with clarity, calmness, and conviction. Be fully present. Focus entirely on the person or moment before you, without distraction. Exude energy. Your energy should match the intention you want to convey. Oprah Winfrey's presence is legendary, not just because of her voice or charisma, but because she makes every person feel they matter. She listens deeply, projects warmth, and radiates authenticity. Her presence turns conversations into experiences and interviews into intimate connections. Oprah mastered presence not through wealth. It was cultivated through intentionality and practice. Wealth is often measured in currency, but presence is wealth in human influence. Presence can create opportunities money cannot buy. It can turn strangers into allies, resistance into cooperation, and vision into reality. Presence is not something you acquire, it is something you become. The eighth dark law of wealth was about controlling the frame. The ninth is about controlling yourself in the frame. Master your presence and you master your world. Presence is the invisible force that shapes reality. It is not about what you say, it is about how you exist. The ninth dark law of wealth is simple yet profound. Presence is the ultimate power. When you master presence, you become more than a person. You become a force of nature, and in doing so, you command life itself. Law 10, the law of absolute scarcity. The final dark law of wealth is deceptively simple, yet absolutely crucial. What is rare is valuable. This is not just a principle of economics, it is a principle of life. Scarcity drives value. Scarcity drives demand. Scarcity drives power. If you want to control influence, if you want to create lasting impact, you must understand this law deeply. Absolute scarcity is not about lacking, it is about choosing to be rare. Most people live in abundance of attention, of noise, of presence. They are easily found, easily copied, easily ignored. But when something is scarce, it becomes precious. When you are scarce, it creates magnetic pull. Scarcity transforms presence into power, access into privilege, and connection into opportunity. Look at nature. Diamonds are rare. That is why they hold value. Water is precious in a desert. That is why it commands price. Time is scarce. That is why it is priceless. In human life, scarcity works the same way. Your time, your energy, your attention, your availability. These are all finite resources, and controlling them is controlling power. The wealthy don't just accumulate resources, they create scarcity. They make themselves harder to access, harder to replace, harder to replicate. This scarcity creates value in every interaction. When you are scarce, people pay attention. They prioritize you. They elevate your worth. Scarcity is the invisible currency of influence. Throughout history, leaders and empires understood scarcity. They controlled resources, information, and access. They mastered the art of being rare. The Roman Empire did not flood the world with Roman citizens. It made citizenship a coveted privilege. The most powerful kings and queens controlled access to their presence. Scarcity, not abundance, was the foundation of their influence. Human psychology is wired to value scarcity. Behavioral economists call it the scarcity effect, the tendency to place higher value on things perceived to be limited. Scarcity creates urgency. Scarcity creates desire. When something is rare, it triggers our deepest instincts to protect, acquire, and preserve it. This is why the law of absolute scarcity is so powerful. It taps directly into human nature. Today, scarcity is harder to create because we live in a world of abundance, information, connection, distraction. Attention has become the most scarce commodity. If you want to master this law, you must control how your attention and presence are perceived. You must consciously create scarcity. Scarcity builds social capital. If your time, your energy, and your presence are rare, people value them more. They will seek you out, offer greater respect, and treat your attention as a privilege. This is the essence of influence. Scarcity turns ordinary presence into a rare treasure. Scarcity is powerful, but it can be abused. When scarcity is manufactured without integrity, it becomes manipulation. It can lead to false exclusivity, distrust, and exploitation. The mastery of scarcity requires wisdom and discipline. It must be rooted in authenticity, not deception. The wealthy use scarcity in ways most people overlook. Time scarcity. They make their time precious, refusing to waste it on trivial matters. Access scarcity. They control who gets to be in their inner circle. Resource scarcity. They limit access to their resources to maintain value. Scarcity, when wielded with precision, transforms influence into legacy. Practical steps to cultivate scarcity. Limit availability. Don't be constantly accessible. Create space. Protect your time. Treat your time as a finite resource. Guard it fiercely. Choose selective engagement. Engage deeply with what matters and let go of what doesn't. Master self-restraint. The ability to say no is your greatest tool. Control the narrative. Make your presence and resources a rare privilege, not a given. Steve Jobs mastered scarcity in a way few have. He made Apple product launches exclusive events. He made himself rare by controlling access to interviews and appearances. And he made his time scarce, refusing to be available to everyone. The result? His scarcity amplified the value of everything he created. Apple became not just a company, but a culture of desire. The 9th dark law was about presence. The 10th is about leveraging presence through scarcity. When you master scarcity, you make yourself irreplaceable. You turn attention into influence. You transform opportunity into legacy. Scarcity is not just a principle of economics. It is a principle of power. Scarcity is the invisible force that shapes value. It is not about hoarding. It is about choosing where and how you expend your presence. The 10th dark law of wealth is simple yet profound. What is rare is valuable. Master scarcity, and you master influence. Master influence, and you master your destiny. When you control scarcity, you control the world itself.